I'm in danger!
Hi everyone and welcome to Priority Holder, and today we'll be playing Qualifier Day 1 in the Timeless format using Colorless Superfriends. Now I've played this deck a number of times, including the Qualifier play-in, and so I'll link to that video which has a more in-depth description of how the deck works. I'm just going to highlight what has changed in the build since then. So I've dropped the two Buried Ruins for 2 more Blast Zones as an anti-aggro measure, and with that loss of any graveyard component in this deck, switched out the Surveil lands for Scry lands. Just because if we Surveil like a Devourer and the opponent can just reanimate it, and that can cause us a big problem. So like we don't get any value off the Surveils, and in some of the control matchups we do actually need as many cards in our deck as possible. So that is why I switched out for Scry lands and for Blast Zones. And then in my testing, this just frankly has a bad show and tell matchup, which is concerning if you play any amount of Timeless, but I feel like it's pretty decent against the rest of the field. And so in playing this event and like just trying to look at like whatever data I could figure out, like how many people might be playing show and tell, I ended up taking the drastic measure of cutting 2 of the 6 mana Ugins, Ugin the Ineffable, and 2 of the Guardian Idols for 4 Vexing Baubles, just to try and get some mileage against show and tell. And this can, in theory, like cycle itself if it's useless. The problem is, though, we're often chalicing for 1, and so this can just be an absolute brick if we've already done that. So like it is a gamble, and I was sort of hedging against a field of that's loaded with show and tell and best of 1. There is one problem, though. This event was not best of 1, which I realized as soon as I clicked play. So I have the normal like 7-card wish board for Karn the Great Creator, and I ended up entering with just a bunch of sort of like a maybe board, like an idea board for stuff I was thinking about, like in the show and tell matchup and the random lands I was thinking about. So we will be battling with the handicap. It is at this moment that I realized it's best of 3, and I'm just like, dang it, oh, I can't believe it. How did I not see it? And I'm like tabbing over to like the web page to see what I missed, and anyway, frustrated, but just like, all right, just got to make the best of it. So we're keeping this hand. You know, it could go places. You know, Mind Stone, Forsaken Monument, Ugin. We will need lands to make all that happen, though. So blue-green Surveil land from the opponent. Now that is a little bit spicy. They're playing Labyrinth on the other side, but typically blue-green Surveil means show and tell. So opponent's going to fire off Malevolent Rumble. They're doing something a little different though, a different color combination, but there's an Omniscience in hand, and this is the peril of just jamming a bunch of Vexing Baubles in and hoping for the best. Like, we still have a horrible show and tell matchup. You know, I was trying to like hedge against it, you know, but it's like, what can we do against show and tell right now? Like, just having some sort of 4 whammy cards is like not really enough. So we're gonna see if, and yeah, of course they have it. So turn 3 show and tell. I mean, maybe we're not dead, but you know, I think I've almost always died from this point. So we're gonna transition to triple speed, and yeah, they already had the Fae of Wishes. This is a competitive event, so I'm letting this play out. I want to know exactly how they execute it. And so they do like the double Masterminds acquisition thing. So we jump into sideboarding, and as you could see, like this is a very faulty sideboard. It's not even the full 15. It's just idea cards I'd left in there, besides the main wish board. That being said, some of the idea cards were anti-show and tell stuff. So I'm going to trim a couple Ugin the Spirit Dragons to get a Platinum Angel and a Meteor Golem in there. And contemplating Godpharaoh Statue, and decide, you know, it's worth going down one more like thing to tuck under Labyrinth just to get another whammy against them. And I mean, we have a Vexing Bauble, so pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and go for it. It just feels tough not having like full weapons for sideboarding, you know. So I'm gonna play Vexing Bauble, and they're gonna fire off Once Upon a Time. That's another thing that Vexing Bauble gets in theory, though. Like in this instance, they're always going to be able to use it first. So they have a Labyrinth. And we got Chalice. So we're going to do what we do best and just Chalice on 1, and hopefully that gets them a little bit. Now, opponent is playing an unorthodox show and tell build. We've already seen Ugin's Labyrinth, and so it's sort of a wild card. We're not quite sure yet what's going on the other side of the battlefield. Alright, here comes Labyrinth, so... And they're going to stick the new Ulamog under it and just pass. Going to play the creature in case we can start attacking them. And they're going to fire off Boseiju on the Mutavault. And I'm like, very confused here. I'm like, why didn't they Boseiju the Vexing Bauble? Like, isn't that shutting them down? But then it becomes clear when we see Shifting Woodland that the opponent has, like, a backup plan. Like, now we've seen Ulamog, things can get nasty. So they're actually going to return Ulamog right here. And then play the Adventure off Tempest Hearts. Opponent is cooking on the other side of the battlefield. We see God Pharaoh's Gift and Ulamog hit the bin, and they fire up Shifting Woodland. Now, fortunately, I held up Kozilek's command, which does have a graveyard exiling mode, but I make a critical mistake here. I think I'm so keyed in on, like, exiling their target. So, like, they're targeting God Pharaoh's Gift to go for, like, the instant win. What I should do is just exile the Ulamog, and then they won't have anything. Like, I guess they could bring back the Tempest Heart. But still, like, Ulamog is, like, the most dangerous thing. The one upside of exiling God Pharaoh's Gift is it does take them off Delirium for the Woodland. So, I think that was a mistake, though, not just nailing the Ulamog, because, you know, maybe they'll be able to Shifting Woodland that later, and that's going to be a big problem. So, we're going to slam the ring and just try our best here. Someone's going to crack Windstep Heath. And they're just going to play out the Tempest Heart. Okay. I guess that wasn't even in their graveyards. Yeah, so it would have been much better to exile the Ulamog. We're going to use the ring. And just trying to accelerate stuff out. So we're going to slam Forsaken Monument and hope that it gets there. But the opponent has another Boseiju, which is really tough. And the thing about Boseiju is that you can only get lands with basic land types. So even if we put some wastes in there, we could not grab those with Boseiju. They don't have any basic land types. You'd have to put like an island or something. So that was pretty tough because we would have been really sitting pretty with the untapping Forsaken Monument. So really fishing heavily for a land. We did find one. And I'm about to slam Forsaken Monument, but I pause here and realize, wait, opponent has 6 mana. And, you know, they have 2 Shifting Woodland. So I'm contemplating here, are they gonna untap and just play God Pharaoh's Gift? And so we can lead with Forsaken Monument, still have 2 mana. And the thing is, like, Disruptor Flute is our best answer for Shifting Woodland because it can just shut all of them down. So I go ahead and put Shifting Woodland, but I am aware that I'm, like, you know, basically just letting them have a God Pharaoh's Gift here if they have it. The opponent plays Labyrinth, and they slam God Pharaoh's Gift. And I'm just like, oh man, because I knew it was a possibility, but like I said, it was such a good answer to the Woodlands. So this is sort of a wombo combo because the Ulamog gets exiled and then immediately gains Annihilator 10, so we are insta-dead. So that was a tough one, but we jump into the next one. And you may notice that the match... So I missed recording this first game of this match, and of course it was like the coolest game ever. So I'll just tell you what happened. But I went turn 1 Chalice for 1, turn 2 Chalice for 2, turn 4 Chalice for 3, and opponent didn't cast any spells the whole game. They did attack me with a bunch of creature lands. Anyway, I was devastated once I realized I did not record that one. So we are up 1-0 as we get hammered right now against a red deck. So we have a Labyrinth, but we don't have anything to tuck into it. And Vexing Bauble is still stuck in this deck because we have essentially no sideboard for this matchup. Like, most of the sort of maybe cards I was putting there were for show and tell. And you can see the sideboard cards appearing on the other side, though. A Braid, Rexar, Mind Stone, which would have powered out a One Ring, and we get hammered by a Lightning Bolt for good measure. So you could see the importance of a sideboard as our artifacts are getting destroyed, and we don't have any things like extra Ratchet Bombs, for example, this matchup. So I'm going to fire up the Kozilek's Clan, trying to buy some time here. So definitely exiling the creature. This is a riskier play, like creating a Scion. Like maybe we should just go for the card draw here. But I really wanted to like turbo out the mana production. It is exposing it to like a lightning bolt or something like that. But if they were trying to like stomp the token, we could sacrifice it and fizzle it. So like there is that. But fortunate we did draw a 7-drop to tuck under Ugin's Labyrinth. And go ahead and... So, I don't know why I did this. I think... Yeah, I don't know what... Oh, I guess I was worried about all their creature lands, so I'm grabbing Disruptor Flute here, but... I think that was a turn to just slam Forsaken Monument and pray they don't have another Abrade. So I grabbed that to shut down their Faceless Havens, but Karn is going to bite the dust here. But thinking about it now, I think that was a time to just slam Monument and try and set up for like a super turn the next one. Now Cemetery Gatekeeper, a little bit of a sequencing error here. So they should have done Disruptor Flute first, but they're going to name Chalice, so Chalice is Tax and Oblivion, and of course that's what we draw. Now Cemetery Gatekeeper is going to punish us heavily here by making all of our artifacts ding us for 2. So I'm desperately trying to stay alive here with the One Ring. Did not find a land and draw another useless Chalice. So opponent just passes right back to us. And I start mathing it out, so yeah, we gotta draw off the ring first, see if we get something, and we do find another land. But the thing is, Gatekeeper's gonna punish us for every artifact we cast. And so I'm like, can I slam Monument and then cast it? But the thing is, like, we'll end up at a net loss of life, even leading with Monument and trying to gain into it. So I'm like, anyway, I end up timing out, agonizing over it. But they had the stomp anyway, so we were just mega dead, even if we were trying to do that. So opponent's gonna attack in and kill us. And we might have been able to get there, leading with Monument. So you could see the bleak sideboard situation again. I was only able to pull out one of the Vexing Baubles, which basically does nothing in this matchup. Mulliganing, because from game 1 that you didn't get to see, saw how effective Chalice was against them. You see they have a lot of 1-drops. So mulliganed a little bit more aggressively there to try and find a Chalice. Fortunately we did. Radiant Fountain's also super clutch. So now the thing is, oh, Ragavan, that's pretty tough. So we are going to be able to Chalice for one, but it's like definitely not safe because the opponent is now packing Abrades, so, which, unless we Chalice for 2, could completely unlock it for them. So we're going to Chalice for 1 and hopefully just hit the brakes on them for a bit. The opponent is going to like slam us with Ragavan and start getting treasures, so like that is not ideal. I hope they don't get anything good. Alright, so they just rip a land off the top, fortunately. And they're going to play an alchemy card, Rahilda, which is a werewolf. Basically, if it ever deals combat damage to us, it gets to like heist a card effectively. And the backside werewolf has double strike, so it gets to do it a couple times. Now, maybe there was an argument just casting main phase Kozilek's command, considering I'm probably going to use it on Ragavan, because by not casting anything, allowed it to flip into the double striker. So that was possibly a mistake, considering we were going to do this anyway. And it's always a question, what's the next mode? And mana seems to be the biggest crunch right now, though it is, they are very fragile sources of mana, these Eldrazi spawns. But I'm going to go for the Kozilek's command. I did consider blocking here, but ultimately decided just to let them hit us. Alright, so opponent grabs a One Ring from us. And a Mind Stone. And I'm honestly excited to see them cast the One Ring here. I'm really glad, because I didn't want to see like them just hard cast a Bone Crusher Giant, for example, because that's just a ton of pressure against us. But the One Ring doesn't put any pressure on us, so I'm happy just to let them draw cards. Now this is a pray for no Abrade moment. We're gonna slam Forsaken Monument. The opponent now has the ring working for them. Now this is a little dangerous, but the thing is, Chalice is going to just constrain what they can do unless they can get rid of it. So maybe they're drawing like bolts and stuff like that, but they can't deploy everything, or like Swift Spears. The opponent makes a mistake here trying to cast our Vexing Bauble into Chalice, and then they end up playing Mind Stone, and I'm just like, what do they have in hand? And there's a Cemetery Gatekeeper. So maybe that wasn't a mistake. Maybe they were trying to just get an artifact in the graveyard. I think that's what have been. So opponent, good play by them. And we're going to just whammy them with Ugin. So the Monument survived, and that was the whole gambit, is like, can we vault our mana production and just let Ugin start to take over? Now, the opponent does have the Forsaken Haven, which is a 4/3 Vigilance. So opponent is just, and they have plenty of them, or sorry, Faceless Haven, yes. So they're going to send out Faceless Haven. And I'm not devastated to see this happen because they're not really adding to the board. And there's the Abrade. So they're going to leave the Chalice alone and kill our Forsaken Monument, which is honestly a good choice because it's going to gain us a lot of life. Alright, so the opponent is discarding to hand size. Agonizing over this turn, trying to figure out what to do. You could see me like, is it Karn or a Chalice? But I figure, I mean, if I Chalice for 2, then that locks them out of all their Abrades and out of Stomps, and they basically can only, from what I understand from their deck, they basically can only play Bone Crusher Giants at this point in time. So the opponent is just firing up the ring, casting Ragavan into Chalice. Not sure what's going on there, but that probably was a mistake. Alright, now Faceless Haven is going to shut down Ugin. So like, that is unfortunate. Like, but the opponent is racking up the counters on the ring. So the question now is, can we survive long enough so that the ring kills them? Now I'm going to play a Karn here and look at the wish board. So basically the options are Darksteel Citadel or to grab a Forsaken Monument. And Citadel gets us up to 6 mana, and maybe we'll draw a land to cast the Devourer. I end up going for the Monument. Now maybe that's a little bit too risky considering how much mana they're building up, and now they're going to have multiple creature lands at their disposal. But the opponent is at 5 with the ring with a ton of counters on it, so they're going to cut down Karn. But they are really constrained at what they can actually cast. So I'm going to play Bone Crusher Giant. Now this is where I'm like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have grabbed Forsaken Monument. But that Radiant Fountain is like incredibly clutch because they're dealing damage in like increments of 8 right now. I mean, yeah, the opponent just packs in after they see that life gain. The ring's going to kill them before they get us. So won a game. We're 1-1 overall, and we're seeing Luris on the other side of the battlefield. So this is honestly a sketchy keep. I saw Devourer plus Labyrinth and got excited. I'm like, all right, maybe we'll reveal like a Chalice. Obviously we didn't, and so I'm realizing like, all right, I just got to keep a land on top at this point. So we're gonna play out the Vexing Bauble, and honestly probably should just cracked it right there with the extra mana. Like, it's not likely to do much again. I guess it does stop Mishra's Bauble, so because that's a 0-cost spell. Alright, opponent's cracking Polluted Delta. Now the Luris decks that are like most you see in the, there's different ones, but there's like Psychic Frog is popular. Now that we see blue-black lands, you see a Tameo Surveilled Away. So this is sort of just a counter spell test right here. This is not like the most value Kozilek's command, but I just want to make something happen and see like if they end up like mana draining it or something. The opponent just lets it happen. We're going to just draw the Chalice because it's obviously going to be strong against the Luris player. Now the question is, you know, this Luris player is not committing to the board. This means they're holding up something. So I'm like, are they just holding up like a Bowmasters, or is this a Mana Drain or a Spell Pierce? So go ahead and just try out Karn, and they let it resolve. So we're going to go ahead and grab something.
We can do this.
And what to get? against a Loris deck that has not played that much. End up getting Darksteel Citadel just to guarantee the next land drop, just to let the game develop. Alright, so the opponent's going to crack, shock it in, and let's see what they have. Orcish Bowmasters, so... could have just cracked the Bauble in their spawns by sacrificing the spawn, but part of me was like, maybe I could chump block and save the Karn, but honestly Karn's like not doing anything, especially with them attacking, so I think I should have just drawn with the Bauble in response with the Bowmasters on the stack, but I end up doing this and like, oh, I can crack in response, but then like, wait a second, but then the Bowmaster is just gonna kill Karn anyway. Like I said, I don't know why Tunnel Vision so much on keeping Karn alive this turn. Like, he's not really doing anything. So, and the opponent just passes. I played Darksteel Citadel. There was an argument to just playing Mutavault and just trying to defend Karn. I'm going to go ahead and attempt to Chalice for one. And yeah, opponent has a Spell Snare, which is really tough because of how efficient it is. They still have 2 mana up, so... not that we're casting another spell this turn, so I'm just gonna plus Karn on the Vexing Bauble as just like a way to battle against their Bowmasters, though we have just presented them with the juicy Bowmasters target, so the Bauble is getting killed, and I'm really regretting not cracking it early. I don't crack it here because it seems really horrible to give them 2 Bowmaster triggers, especially with no creatures to defend, so... they've already seen Kozilek's command, so this is a good send all the creatures at Karn just to make sure he's gone. Attack from the opponent. So, alright, there's Tamiyo. Let's see if they have like a Brainstorm to immediately flip it. Alright, so they are passing. Now, thanks to Ugin's Labyrinth, I am going to be able to stick another charge counter on Blast Zone, which is going to be very juicy at x=2, killing both the Bowmasters. Alright, so we did draw another land. We're going to go and scry first. I go ahead and keep Karn. It seems like it's going to be useful, like just grabbing us extra stuff. I'd much rather the One Ring resolve than Karn, so just testing the waters here against a mana drain. Opponent lets it resolve because they have tons of pressure, so like there's nothing really like amazing we can do. I'm just going to grab a Ratchet Bomb here and slam that, because with a sacrificing Ratchet Bomb with 0 counters does kill tokens. So our opponent's going to cling to dust. Draw a card. But I love the opponent's deck so far, like this kind of like control-y mid-range, like I'd classify it as like slow mid-range, you know, like even though they're like a lean deck, obviously being a Loris deck, they're able to just sort of take their time. So this is going to keep Karn alive another turn and kill their token for good measure, but like Karn is just not really profitable right now. Like, we don't have a good artifact. Now, I think I was playing too small ball this whole matchup, grabbing like tiny little artifacts to cast with Karn. I think I should have just been going for like copies of the One Ring, copies of Forsaken Monument, and just basically force them to counter something. Alright, so opponent lets the One Ring resolve, which obviously is not great right now because of all the Bowmasters. But I'm have the Blast Zone at the ready, so alright, they're sending everything at Karn. And I'm gonna attempt to block with Mutavault here, but this is game 1, so like this is not without risk, and you could see, you know, they have creature removal for it, and it's especially devastating because it's a land destruction spell as well. So that maybe honestly should just let Karn die, because actually, I think the heads-up play would have been to anim plus Karn on the One Ring and just create a big indestructible creature, and then maybe keep Karn alive for a few turns that way until they can use it again. So I think this is just too aggro right here. Like, I really want to draw off the One Ring, so I crack Blast Zone, tap the One Ring, and of course they have the third Bowmasters, which is really, really bad. I think I should have just waited till a safer moment to crack the Blast Zone. Like, I'm like, what are the chances they have a third one right now? And of course they had it. So, and then Vexing Bauble is looking pretty bad as usual. So opponent's sending in, and we're not even locking down their clues anymore, because since the Karn's gone. Alright, so there's the Brainstorm. They're going to flip the Tamiyo. And so Tamiyo doesn't start off with enough loyalty to do like the regrowth minus, so they have to always like uptick it first. So that's what's going to happen now. They're going to uptick it.
Use your words.
And the opponent is sitting pretty. I'm feeling like getting constricted here. Like I just have to crack this Vexing Bauble. It's not great, but I just got to make something happen here. So, and the One Ring's going to be dinging us without a whole lot of benefit. So Kozilek's command is nice. It can eventually get rid of the Bowmasters, but here comes the mana drain. Alright, so Karn is going to get countered. Going to play the Guardian Idol and pass. Opponent's going to crack their Scalding Tarn. And not feeling great about Mystic Sanctuary putting mana drain on top. That is devastating, considering they still have like multiple spells in hand. Now they can just pour their surplus mana drain mana right into their clues, so they're just like packed with action right now. There's Nether Goyth. So feeling the squeeze right now. So upticking Tamiyo again, sitting with the creatures. And now it's frankly too dangerous to activate the drain. Like maybe I should have just done it anyway, like just to really try and find something. But the opponent is just, camping on the mana drain, and we're not able to like effectively like double spell and do anything. So I'm just gonna activate the One Ring to try and make something happen here. Now that is an Ugin the Spirit Dragon. So I'm like, all right, how do I simultaneously not die and get them to use their mana drain? And I don't know if it's quite possible. So now I'm going to use a Kozilek's command here, and it's looking bleak. I'm trying my best at this point, but I think I was playing way too small ball with my Karn the Great Creators earlier. Should have just been grabbing One Rings and like super powerful stuff they just had to keep countering, and just tried to run them out of counters. Basically, I never like forced them to like use a counter. They might not even had a counter in the early game. Like they realized they can just attack all the Karns I was playing with Bowmasters, and like it didn't really end up mattering. So I think that was not well played on my part. So Tamiyo is just going to bring back the Fatal Push. It's just going to cut down our Guardian Idol. I felt so good about blocking the Bowmasters, but now that takes us away from Ugin mana. Now we fall to 5. And just going to activate the ring. We need something amazing, multiple amazing things here. So there's a Forsaken Monument, which the opponent is obviously not going to let resolve. Yeah, so they're going to counter that because who knows what we can play after that. Not to mention we've gained some life. Now the problem is that it's just too little too late. Like we do gain off the Radiant Fountain, but between the One Ring and their 5/5, like we are just dead. So play out the spells, but we are donezo right now. And there's another Bowmasters. So yeah, like I said, I think this is a very winnable game. Just some long-term misplays on my part. So I want to get as many of the Vexing Baubles out as possible, but you could see the configuration I chose here. Like I couldn't even take all of them out. Like there wasn't really any I was like just siding in some of the random lands I had in the sideboard that weren't really useful. So now this on the other hand feels pretty good. A turn 1 Chalice for 1. So that's going to be strong against them. There's the Mishra's Bauble from the opponent. Alright, they're passing. Now we will need to draw some action though. That seems a little too ambitious though. So I'm going to put Ugin the Spirit Dragon back. It will probably be nice to have one of those eventually, but we already have one tucked under Labyrinth. Like we need one of like sort of our more intermediate spells to get going. Alright, so the opponent's going to Bauble plus Surveil. But already feeling better about this game landing at early Chalice. And I think I was playing a little too scared last game, so we'll see what happens. All right, Crystal Grotto. Kozilek's command is great because that allows us to play the sort of play spells in the end step game, that the opponent tries to do. Alright, so they're playing Bowmasters. So, here's the question, and the audio cuts out here. The recordings get weird sometimes. So I'm definitely going to exile the Bowmasters, and I decided not to draw a card because in the order of operations on Kozilek's command, it would give them a Bowmaster's trigger. And I wanted to give them as little value as possible, so I went for just the Scions and instead of the card draw there, even though that's sort of what I wanted to do. So Bowmasters is pretty good against us. Alright, so the opponent's shocking a land in and sending in, and they're just putting Lurrus to hand, so we must be locking them down pretty harshly with the Chalice for that to be their play. So passing with a relatively large Kozilek's command up. I'm hoping they just slam Lurrus here. But they have Sink into Stupor, so they do have answers for Chalice. So they bounce our Chalice and put their Sink into Stupor back on top. Now, if you remember in game 1, we were got by Spell Snare last time, and they're probably also playing like Spell Pierce. They probably loaded up on Spell Pierces from their sideboard, seeing what we're playing. So I think Chalice, for one, is more potent against them. But that also just gets got by Spell Snare. So I opt for a Chalice equals 2 here. Because that we know it is also good against them. It doesn't get got by Spell Pierce or Spell Snare in this moment. And I guess with this yeah. So I go ahead and play a Chalice for 2. But now their Thoughtseizes are unlocked. So this is a use it or lose it moment with Thoughtseize on the stack. So I'm just going to use the Kozilek's command to draw a card and exile their creature, leaving one of the Scions behind. And, I mean, yeah, I'm just going to bottom that and hope to draw a land, so their Thoughtseize bricks, and that's what happened. Like, we would have loved the Devourer there, but it was getting immediately taken by by the Thoughtseize. So, play the Surveil land, definitely get the stupid Vexing Bauble out of there. And happy to slam the One Ring. We'll see if it resolves. We know they have Sync. All right, so they're going to just bounce that. Fortunately because we have the spawn, we're able to just replay it. And this is the thing you want to play. You want to land your One Rings against these decks trying to grind you up. That way, you overtax all their counters and stuff by just having so many threats you're playing. All right, so their 1-mana spells are unshackled once again, so they're going to play Lurrus and get to replay Bauble here. So that doesn't feel good, but we have an answer for Lurrus right now, and another Chalice. So I'm going to draw some cards and think about what to do here. So it seems like we just have to get rid of Lurrus. Like, it's just going to keep recycling Baubles and eventually some more nasty stuff. So now, the really nice thing about Chalice on 2 is that means Bowmasters is out of the picture right now. Now, here's an unexpected play. The opponent's going to Surgical their fetch land to sort of do some deck thinning. And you may be wondering, how come I'm not slamming Chalice for 1 right here? It's because it would get got by our Chalice for 2. So it is unfortunate when you have to lead with the Chalice for 2, because then you can't Chalice for 1 later on. So that is something you have to worry about, because we would love a Chalice for 1 if we could actually resolve it. But we're actually stopping ourselves right now. So here comes Mishra's Bauble. But Mana Drain and Bowmasters are getting locked out right now. So Nethergoyf and Fatal Push, however, are fair game. All right, so One Ring dings us. Another Chalice. I mean, I guess there is an argument for Chalicing for 3, because that'll lock out Sink into Stupor. But we are going to resolve the Forsaken Monument, activate Karn the Great Creator, and I'm going to grab Cityscape Leveler here because it has a cast trigger. Now we're pretty safe from any counter spells from them at this point, but wanted to really get rid of the Nethergoyf and just have a monstrous threat. So this game has gone a lot better for us. I'm going to send in with the 2/3. Now, it was at some point in this game, so I'm a best of 1 player, so I often with this deck will grind out like 40-minute games against control, just one game. And so I don't have the urgency that you need sometimes in best of 3. And so it's during this game where I started checking my clock and realizing I had less than like 10 minutes left on my time. The opponent had like 13 minutes. And so I tried to start playing more hasty because it could just lose the clock. Like I still need to win a whole nother game, and like this deck is not exactly fast. But so I'm hurrying to try and kill them right here. And the opponent might also be playing to the clock a little bit, like trying to like, you know, they knew we're like super dead, you know, but it's a competitive event, you know, so you got to do the best you can. But yeah, if you like seeing an actual game one, please crowd favorites the like button, and we're into the sideboarding right now for this. So we're 1-1, and I'm just looking and just like, oh, is there anything that could help? But the problem is like all of my like typical best of 1 wish board artifacts sort of want to keep in the wish board for all the Karns, you know. So opponent goes first. This is an incredible hand right here. I'm like super excited. I'm like, all right, let's do this. But opponent goes first, so they're gonna crack their fetch and Thoughtseize. So hand went from amazing to not great, and the opponent was probably really glad they had the turn 1 Thoughtseize. Otherwise, we would have made their life extremely difficult once again. So now we will be able to generate some really fast mana right now, and then the opponent has another sideboard piece in Disruptor Flute, and they just name Karn the Great Creator. So Disruptor Flute, it taxes the spell itself and shuts down like its activated ability. So basically Karn is a complete brick right now. Like we will not be able to, like even if we like saved up 7 mana and played it, we will not be able to do anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the Kozilek command here. Maybe I should just let them either. Maybe I should have just waited, and because they're probably gonna take Forsaken Monument anyway, since we can slam it next turn. But I decided just, you know, I'm likely casting a spell anyway. Though neither of those cards seem really good for us. We draw another Ugin's Labyrinth, which is pretty rough. Alright, so they take that and crack their fetch again. Let's see what they have. So opponent is at 9, but we have no way to pressure them. Here comes another Goyf. Zhalfirin Void. Desperately trying to find some action. So Karn the Great Creator is just a dead card right now, so definitely scrying that away and not feeling amazing. Maybe I should have just played Blast Zone last turn, but the thing is, I'm not eager to use Blast Zone yet because Nether Goyf has its own recursion and the opponent has Lurrus. So I'm not eager to blow up my own lands for a creature they're going to get back right away. So, but they are able to grow the Nether Goyf to a more respectable size, and Lurrus goes into hand. So like we need something, and yeah, the Blast Zones aren't horrible. So a card, there's so much utility you can build into the mana base. So another one you can put in is Scavenger Grounds to have some graveyard hate. So it is something to consider, but it's like, you're considering that the Labyrinths and the like Blast Zones are probably locked. Like, do you cut some Scry lands for it, you know? So opponent is going to Thoughtseize us. They fall to 6, but once again we have no pressure and no really good things going. So they have a mystery card in hand plus a Lurrus, and we draw another Blast Zone. So I mean, we'll be able to sacrifice Blast Zones for quite a while, but the opponent can also just bring stuff back with Lurrus. Now I think I should have ticked one of the Blast Zones up. I guess I'm doing it now, but I think I could have done it last turn. Oh, okay, this is, yeah. I was going for bigger dreams right here of slamming Ugin and like really churning this game around. So, but I still think on an earlier turn I could have charged up one of the Blast Zones to 2 to maybe blow up Disruptor Flute, or maybe march up to Lurrus's mana value. And okay, so the opponent has a Spell Pierce for our Ugin, and we are 1 mana short of paying for it, and that was a heartbreaker. Maybe I went a little too aggro. Like we do have another Ugin we can bring back, but we are dying very quickly here. So we take 6, fall to 5, and the opponent may be just camping on another counter spell. So I'm gonna try and draw another counter spell, and I want to bring my other Ugin to hand, so I have to use the auto tapper here so it doesn't ruin my plan. I'm gonna Chalice for 1 and just see what that does for us. Alright, so the opponent's gonna fire off the Brainstorm in response. It's gonna allow them basically to get out of the pickle we're trying to put them in. And yeah, they're just gonna use their Fatal Push. So it's like, do I just crack the blaster or not? So we finally get a Chalice from, but it seems far too late considering how much damage we're facing. And the nice thing about Chalice, okay, so sorry. The nice thing about Chalice for 1 is that when we kill the Nether Goyf, they will not be able to recast it with Lurrus. So that is nice. And also, I don't think it will be able to use its escape either. But the opponent, last card is Sink into Stupor, and I'm just like, oh man, we were so close. Like we just are just so close. Like the problem is, like, so if we return Ugin to hand right now, which we sort of have to do, basically we have to draw a 7 or 8 drop right now to retuck under Ugin's Labyrinth, and so the One Ring is not a dead draw, but we really needed. Oh, and they have another Sink into Stupor. So it looks like even like if we drew ideally for the Ugin, it was just not happening. But we're not out of it yet. We can retuck the Ugin and play the One Ring anyway. We are living on a prayer right now, though. 2 3-power creatures from the opponent. We'll be taking 1 down to 1. Bauble is not great for us because that means they're going to be able to get some Lurrus value right now. Not to mention, it can grow the Nether Goyf. So, all right. So this is really tough because the opponent's going to get. And I did consider playing Chalice for 0 last turn, just didn't end up doing it and got punished because they immediately were able to use their Mishra's Bauble. So, all right. I'm trying to think. All right, I guess I could play a Radiant Fountain, gain up to 3, play a giant creature, exile Lurrus, and have a blocker for another Goyf, and then have to basically find some life gain to survive. And the opponent found a Drown the Lock off their Bauble draw. So this one was tough. I think in this post sideboard game we had a real, like, when they bring in all the spell pierces and stuff, like, our life's gonna be tough. I think had I played a little better in game 1, we might have been able to bring this one home. So a tough loss to a really awesome blue black mid-range deck, though. So we jump into the next one and we see another Lurrus across the battlefield. And I think I have Devourer, so I'm like, all right, that digs us pretty deep, but we have like Vexing Baubles, which don't really do it. I think that should have been a mulligan, considering Vexing Baubles essentially probably do nothing against Lurrus. Now, turn 1 Ocelot Pride, we did find a Chalice, but we don't have the turn 1 Chalice follow-up. And Ugin, yeah, it just seems like too little too late. So, playing a Vexing Bauble and passing, presumably playing against red-white energy, though only seeing white lands right now. There's Guide of Souls and Bracing for Impact, another Ocelot Pride. And this is why energy is so powerful. Like, this is turn 2, they played 3/1 drops, and you can just see what's going on with their board. They're gaining life, they've already banked enough energy to like turn something, give something a bunch of counters off Guide of Souls, and their Ocelot Prides are just going wild. Like, this Blast Zone in theory is really good against the board right now, but it's like way too glacial right now. So I'm chalicing for 1, like way too late. Especially because they have a lot of potent 2s, so opponent's going to shock that in. Gun Bombardment means we're almost essentially dead right now. I don't concede early in these kind of games because I want to get as much information as possible. So I want to see what the opponent's playing, but this recent Goblin Bombardment innovation from the energy decks like really brings them to the next level. But yeah, let me know in the comments, do you want to see some actual timeless events on Arena? I was looking, like, they have Historic and like Explore and stuff, but I'd really love to see some timeless ones, get some more competitive action. So that was a tough one. You could see how I sideboarded, trying to get as many Vexing Baubles out, but like really, really, really wishing we had some extra Ratchet Bombs. I think would be my weapon of choice against the energy decks. As you could see me into like a mulligan spiral into oblivion at the moment. Mulliganing because basically Chalice is my only tool at to battle the energy ones. Besides ramping out like turbo ramping out like an Ugin. I think I was just scarred from game 1 because I think the original hand of 7 might have been doable with like a 1 ring and an Ugin to maybe make something happen, but you could see how fast things spiral out of control like last game. So we mulligan to 4 and turn 1 Ocelot Pride again. Play Blast Zone, play this, and yeah, we will be able to like slam the 1 ring presumably. Alright, so opponent's going to surveil, and yeah, this is just the power of the energy decks. Like their 1 mana cards are better than most cards that cost a lot more than that. Now that is a good draw. Drawing Ugin is nice because we could use it later and it vaults our mana production. So we're gonna play the 1 ring, try and buy us a little time. Now the thing is, this doesn't even stop Ocelot Pride because they're gonna be able to hit the life gain trigger presumably off just playing a creature with like Guide of Souls. And Static Prison is going to ruin the fun. This is why against energy specifically, you always want to Chalice on 1 first, even though they have potent 2s like Gone Bombardment and a Johnny. You have to stop the Static Prisons from grabbing all your stuff. So we have ring protection, but they're able to like soup up one of their creatures. Karn the Great Creator. Question is what to get. I'm trying to remember if I grabbed like just a Darksteel Citadel, if I tried to get like a Ratchet Bomb here. Oh, I went for a Forsaken Monument. Finally decided to be bold with my Karn. Alright, so opponent's going to crack Arid Mesa and get a Surveil land. And they have a Galvanic Discharge. So Karn. Now, they purposely kept 1 energy behind to pay into the Static Prison. So that was like a nice play for the opponent. They weakened the Karn and like generated some energy to keep the Static Prison around. Another Ocelot Pride is not great for us. Alright, so gonna kill Karn and deal a chunk of damage to us. Fortunately, don't have enough energy to like soup something up again.
We must regroup.
And alright, they put Lurrus into hand. Like, I'm feeling decent about our life total right now. And then this happens. They're gonna hit City's Blessing and make like 1,000,000 creatures and also make 1,000,000 energy, which they can go wild with Guide of Souls with. So, and I'm trying to think about what to do here, and I decide, you know what, things aren't that horrible if we crack Blast Zone. So I decided to crack Blast Zone. Like we desperately need land drops, and we fortunately draw in there, but it unshackles the ring, it kills the Guide of Souls, kills the Ocelot Prides. The opponent still has a lot of power on board, but we have the Ratchet Bomb in the sideboard, and then the opponent slams a Johnny. So our plan is looking not as good, because if we kill all the cats, then Johnny just flips, and then that's a problem. So that, and then yeah, they just slam Lurrus right now. So gaining off Inventors Fair, losing life off the 1 ring. It seems like, we fought valiantly on this mulligan to 4, but it doesn't seem like we're gonna like get there. Blast Zone, I'm trying to think of what I can do. So I decide like, okay, I think still the best play is to Karn minus, grab the Ratchet Bomb, because that's going to take a ton of power and toughness off the board. So it seems like the best thing we can do. And you could see, like, it's through these games I'm like figuring out what the ideal best of 3 sideboard would probably be for this deck. I mean, like, obviously this is a small sample size. Now things just got worse though, because the opponent rips an Amped Raptor off the top, which now fulfills the red permanent requirement for Johnny, and they just spin into another Johnny, so they're going to be able to like flip it immediately right here. which is not great. Their Legend Rule 1, flip the other one, and now that they have red permanent, we're going to get nuked for like 1,000,000 damage just off Ajani's +0, I believe.
Where shall we hunt today?
I think I might have been able to like fight a bit longer were it not for like the red permanent, and like, obviously they have a bunch in their deck. So I'm gonna crack the Ratchet Bomb and nuke the tokens, but it's too little, too late, and they can even flip the other Ajani and like activate it also. So we fall to 2, and Loris puts us out of our misery. So that was disappointing, but I feel decent about the deck still. So definitely not the result I wanted, and honestly I was really annoyed about what happened. I'm more mad at myself for like failing the deck and failing all the people who were curious to see how it would do. Like just a suboptimal showing, and like just not having a proper sideboard is not the way to go in best of 3. Like 2 out of 3 games, if you go that far, are going to be post sideboard where everyone has a bunch of silver bullets, Besejus, Abrades, and stuff like that, and like not even having like anti-aggro tools to bring in, and honestly I think even if it had been a best of 1 tournament, I don't think it was the right choice jamming a bunch of Vexing Baubles in there. I think it would have just been better to pray and avoid the show and tell matchups and just try and be good against the rest of the field. So if you're going to play this deck at all, I think you have to make way too many changes to actually make it like functional against show and tell. Like you'd have to cut all the Ugin Spirit Dragons for like Platinum Angels and Meteor Golems, and like have a bunch of Vexing Bauble. Like you'd have to change the complexion of it so much that you'd lose equity in all your other matchups, and it would sort of lose its character. So this is the kind of deck to really pay attention to if show and tell takes a step back, I would say. And this is how I think I would play the deck going forward at this current time, with some Ratchet Bombs in there and rebuilding up the ramp pieces. I actually was feeling the lack of these. Like it was harder to turbo out rings and Forsaken Monuments, not having like extra ramp pieces. So, and I think the flexibility of Ratchet Bomb, like nuking tokens or like a bunch of 1-mana stuff, is just useful and helps us delay the game against aggro decks and shore up that matchup. The one thing you have to watch out for is Ratchet Bombing on 0 does nuke your Chalices, so like you just have to be careful about that. Definitely not a best of 3 expert by any means, but I think I would build the sideboard something like this, with like some number of Vexing Baubles and Meteor Golems and or Platinum Angels to sub in for the Ugin the Spirit Dragons as just things to drop in against show and tell that can maybe help swing it for you. Also, I would really love this if I could squeeze it into the best of 1 sideboard also, but having another piece of Graveyard Hate is nice, especially one that like can just keep being used over time. So I think Unlicensed Hearse would have a home there, especially in the best of 3. You could grab any of the 15 cards with Karn the Great Creator, so like you have access to this, and this would be like super potent. Filigree Sylex is like another functional equivalent to Ratchet Bomb, so if you're worried about like what's it called, surgical extraction, for example, you can mix it up with some of these inside there, but it's like basically a Ratchet Bomb. Disruptor Flute I think is super good, and like want to squeeze in more. And the thing is, like I said, not a best of 3 expert here, but like sideboarding theory I think comes down to it's not always about making bad matchups medium. It's often about making good matchups incredibly good, like where you just always win those matchups, and like that is sometimes better than like hedging too much. So it may not even be worth it, because we have these 5 pieces right as currently constituted right here for show and tell, but it's like that's still just 5. You could easily not draw those, and then they just win on turn 2 or 3, you know. So like it may not be worth it to even put any of these in there and just to go all in on like Ratchet Bombs and like tons of anti-aggro tech and make it so you like never lose to those kind of decks. So once again, I'm not an expert, and that's just sort of my ramblings at this point, but this deck's a ton of fun. I was winning a lot in best of 1 testing it out and was feeling pretty great. Moved off a couple other decks back onto this one, and you'll be seeing videos for those before too long. But yeah, that's the deck. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to see even more nonsense, please consider subscribing. And if you're already subscribed, thank you for your support. Your engagement with the channel helps me know what the people want. Thank you.